This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
CBD is a game changer sweeping the nation. This hemp extract is the natural way to elevate your mood, eliminate aches and pains, reduce anxiety, and keep you sleeping all night long. It can even cut your workout recovery time in half. Get in the game today with 20% off all orders of CBD and lavender products from Lavender Lane, a lavender farm located right here in Milan, Michigan. Just go to lavenderlanemi.com today and enter coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your entire order. Guys, look, these amazing products are infused with calming lavender to maximize their effectiveness, meaning your CBD items only take minutes to take effect, which is way quicker than those pills you were about to swallow. On top of it, they are perfect for men and women. Lavender Lane has lab-tested CBD creams, tinctures, and roll-ons that are perfect for any situation, even if you're on the go. Put your health back in your hands by heading over to lavenderlanemi.com and entering coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your entire order of CBD and lavender products. What do you have to lose? Your satisfaction is guaranteed or your money back. So if you need lavender gifts for your loved ones or just looking for the natural way to ease your discomfort with CBD, go to lavenderlanemi.com and use coupon code DETROIT to unlock these miraculous benefits of CBD and lavender. That's lavenderlanemi.com. And remember, use coupon code DETROIT for 20% off your CBD and lavender products from Michigan's own Lavender Lane.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome back to the Fan Reporter Show, made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and sitting right across from me is Andrew, who's going to give us this week's topics.
We're taking a look back at the Quandre Diggs trade after his stellar performance on Sunday Night Football against the Rams. We're also going to continue Lions tank watch. How realistic is that number 2 pick? Stay tuned to find out.
All right, you heard the man. Quandre Diggs.
I almost got really tongue-tied saying Quandre Diggs trade. It's kind of an acrobatic trio of words. Acrobatic trio of words.
That is not how I would have described it.
Quandre Diggs trade.
Quandre Diggs trade. Not really.
It is.
I also don't. How can words be like?
You need to have really good lingual acrobatics to be able to pull off the enunciation.
I really don't think it's considered acrobatics. Not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie. I don't think that is something that can be entered into an Olympic event.
I think acrobatics is a very fitting word. It doesn't have to be.
But acrobatics is an Olympic event.
It doesn't have to be an Olympic event because you're acrobatics.
But
like you've heard of the term mental gymnastics. Gymnastics is an Olympic event.
Yeah, but that's a bullshit term.
We could have had this. Is that a dirty enough word to get censored to as explicit? Are you sure?
Yes. You can say shit in a PG-13 movie, Andrew. That doesn't mean it's
different rules for PG-13 movie and radio. Podcasting.
No. As we'll
find out.
Continue. Yep. As we continue on here with Outer Tangent, Quandre Diggs, yes, is currently playing at not just a stellar level for Seattle. He is playing at an All-Pro level for Seattle since he's been there and active for them.
Oh, the guy we traded for a 5th-round pick.
Pete Carroll. Funny story. He actually was a 5th-round pick, if I recall. Mm-hmm. But Pete Carroll has clearly found a place for him, which is quite literally all over the field. Mm-hmm. And it's quite a bit frustrating for Lions fans to kind of see that situation ongoing. And it's not like we're not used to it, because we've seen it happen with, Kyle Van Noy in New England. Eric Ebron put up, 15 touchdowns last year for Indianapolis? Mm-hmm. We've seen this before, where a guy will be here, not work, or even in Quandre Diggs' case, he did work and work well. I mean, well enough to give him a 3-year extension and give him a big-time raise and make him a captain of your football team.
Yeah.
And then you ship him out of town that same year for a 5th-round pick. I don't even know what to say. I mean, a lot of fans even crucify the guy saying, he doesn't tackle anymore. He can't tackle. Well, sure's tackling well for Seattle.
Yeah, in his 4 games since the trade, he has 13 tackles. He has 3 picks. One of them pick 6. He has a forced fumble, and he recovered that forced fumble as well.
Mm-hmm. Dude's playing like an all-pro player over there in Seattle. And we gave him the extension, and then we traded him. This may be one of Bob Quinn's worst moves ever.
We weren't happy about it when it happened.
I was very confused when it happened. I didn't quite understand the motive. I didn't quite understand why they would give him an extension just to trade him away. That's a Dave Gettleman type move, i.e. Odell Beckham Jr., who now wants out of Cleveland. I didn't understand what exactly the mindset behind the trade was, and I know even less now. I'll be honest with you, because dude's playing outstanding. And there were reports of, I think it was a hamstring injury, if I remember. His hammy is a mess. He's never going to play as well ever again, blah, blah, blah. There were reports like that surfacing around. And then I saw that maybe Bob Quinn knows more than we do. Well, dude looks pretty damn healthy to me.
Doesn't seem like he does.
No, dude looks pretty healthy to me. He's playing better than I think he's ever played. It's, honest to God, might be the worst move Bob Quinn's ever made. He's got a rash of bad moves, too, like a ton of them. Whether it be the Quandre Diggs trade or getting rid of Kyle Van Noy or getting rid of Eric Ebron and watching them flourish elsewhere, or the multitude of draft picks that he's made that made you kind of scratch your head. Drafting a guy who on some teams' boards was considered an undrafted free agent pickup type dude in the second round in Jelani Tavai. He wasn't even on some teams' boards. He was looked at as a guy that maybe will pick up as a UDFA and invite him to camp. And our team decided to jump and grab him in the second round.
Yeah.
Trying to be the smartest guy in the room isn't necessarily the smartest thing to do, obviously. This franchise has struggled for decades because of this sometimes. And these making moves such as the one that, was made this year with Quandre Diggs is a lot of the reason for these struggles for year in and year out, and lack of success, and why they can't win a playoff game since 1991.
Yeah.
In my lifetime, I've never seen them win a playoff game.
Yep.
I am 26 years old. I have never seen them win a playoff game.
And how many have we seen them go to? 4, I think it is. 3,
I think a little bit more than that.
Cowboys, Saints, Seahawks.
Well, I mean, if we're including since 91, they've been to a lot more than that.
Well, true, since 91, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking of my conscious Lion fandom, which would probably be since like 2000, 2001.
Probably. But either way, the season's kind of been taken through the cement mixer and spit out in a weird situation where we thought they were going for it. And then, are they tanking? Are they not tanking? What's going on here? I saw a statistic that I'm actually going to read out to you from their previous game that I thought was kind of interesting. While I pull that up, go ahead and give your thoughts on Quandre Diggs here.
Before we get into taking talk, there's some other more breaking stuff that happened in the Lions say too. But yeah, the Quandre Diggs trade, I mean, you and I criticized it from the start. It felt like we were giving him up for pennies on the dollar. We both recognized he was having a bit of a down year, but it only been 4 games that he played. Like guys have bad stretches. It was weird to see a team with a battered secondary get rid of their captain in the secondary. It was a very odd trade, and again, you were like, okay, so if you're doing this, you got to go all in, and they didn't. That was like the only trade they made. So we thought, okay, if they're doing this, they're going to be tanking, but they weren't, like you said. But going back to the culture, so a lot of speculation, and I think it has since been confirmed, was that Quandre Diggs had been a little bit outspoken in the locker room as a leader. He'd voiced some opinions that apparently the Lions didn't like. And by Lions, I mean the ownership or the coaching staff. I'm not sure which is the reason behind the trade. But now we have more on just a general feeling towards the Lions staff and organization, because former tight end Hakeem Valles gave an interview on Pride Podcast, and Glover Quinn, former tight end for Lions, Hakeem Valles. And then Glover Quinn gave a podcast on Surf and Turf Pod for...
when the hell did he play?
I don't know. But Glover Quinn also gave an interview on Surf and Turf Pod, the Barstool Sports.
I know that name.
But starting with Hakeem Valles, he said, Martha Ford has to sell the team. She's still calling shots, which makes no sense. I have zero respect for Martha Ford, mainly because I've met her 10 to 15 times, and she reintroduces herself to me every single time. And then he said, Matt Patricia's creating a culture based on fear. There's too much ego involved. He's the alpha, and everyone else better be the beta. There was not one meeting where he ever showed up on time.
I mean, okay. the whole Martha Ford thing, I really don't know how much decision-making power she has, to be honest with you, because from what I've heard, Sheila Ford kind of runs the day-to-day operations a little more than Martha does. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
It just makes more sense. Martha Ford's like 93 years old.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if she was making the day-to-day. She may be kind of doing the face day-to-day thing where she's meeting the players and, meeting the staff and all that stuff. But that doesn't mean she's making day-to-day operations decisions in the Detroit Lions front office. I'd be pretty surprised if that was the case. But other than that, the whole Matt Patricia thing, I mean, I've given my thoughts in previous episodes of our podcast here.
Are you surprised he's never showed up on time for a meeting?
Honestly, no. I'm really not. I don't look at that situation in terms of that coaching staff and that locker room as a very tight ship. We've seen some things go on that make you kind of scratch your head a little bit. So I'd be pretty surprised if that was a very tightly run ship. It's
also not surprising to me that coming from the Belichick coaching tree that he comes in a bit egotistical too.
Exactly, and they all are.
Yeah,
I mean, Bill Belichick is one of the most egotistical coaches out there.
But using it to create a fear-based culture, that's where it's not going to work.
No, especially you got to also understand the shock factor involved in that when you're coming from a culture that Jim Caldwell brought into that locker room of,
and that's where we're going to
of friendliness and gummy bears, and everybody loved it, to this, where he's constantly cussing people out and yelling at everybody and making them run all the time, and getting after them a lot more. It's a bit of a shock factor for a lot of the a lot of the holdovers from the previous regime, and they may not like that very much. Yeah. They may not.
The culture, the fear-based culture, that if Matt Patricia's trying to create a fear-based culture, that lends a lot more credence to the narrative that Glover Quinn got ousted because of the fact that he spoke up in the locker room and maybe got made an example out of. I
mean, that is entirely possible, but again, Glover Quinn was also like 33 years old or 34
Not Glover
years
Quinn,
old.
sorry, Quandre Diggs.
Oh, Quandre Diggs, yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. I don't understand how a guy gets appointed captain, gets an extension, and then all of a sudden you think he has a problem with the way the team's run. That doesn't. There's more to that story than what we're getting, obviously. I think that's definitely a part of it, but I mean, Quandre Diggs wasn't exactly having a great season for the Lions previous to the trade. He wasn't. Nobody was in that defense. Speaking of, I saw, how we've been, early on in the season we had been raving about Justin Coleman's play. Dude's given up like 12 touchdowns this year.
Yeah, he started off hot, and then he started sucking.
Oh boy, has he gotten bad.
He was Hakeem Valles was backup tight end on the team for the last 2 years. He's on the team this year though.
Oh,
that's
okay.
why he knows.
I have
the
never heard of the
info
dude.
About Patricia. But real quick, Glover Quinn also had comments again on the Surf and Turf pod this time. He talked about Stafford, Caldwell, Patricia. He said, Stafford plays hard, but I wanted him to demand more and realize his power within the organization. Let guys know he's fighting for them on Sundays. That's my biggest thing. I just kind of want him to be a little more outspoken. Caldwell came in and changed the culture humbly. Patricia came in from New England. Instead of humbly gaining the respect of the players, I think he came in with a negative attitude of Detroit. Caldwell changed the culture when we were a playoff team. It felt like Patricia came in and thought everything was trash and everything needed a rehaul. We didn't need a rehaul. We just needed to get over the hump. It didn't go over well. What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I can't necessarily disagree with it because he's on the inside and I'm on the outside, and basically Caldwell obviously...
I'm not saying you agree or disagree with what you're saying. I'm saying, what are your thoughts on...
Caldwell obviously had these guys more ready to play on Sunday than Patricia's got them, because this is largely, in a lot of ways, a very similar roster with some differences here and there. And they're clearly just not as good as they were. I don't know if that's because the team just played harder for Caldwell than they do for Patricia and company. But either way,
it's starting to sound like a possibility.
it sure is. But either way, Caldwell clearly found something with the talent that he had and made it happen. Yeah. The dude just couldn't coach on Sundays. And that was the biggest problem. And it kind of sounds to me like they need a culture like Caldwell's, but somebody who can actually coach on Sunday. And you know what? That's fine. Every team's, team's personnel is different. Every player wants something different, and that's fine. If that's how your team can rally and play better on Sunday, then sure, go for it. I grew up with the coaching mentality of the constant yelling and running, and that's what I learned.
Yeah.
And I don't hate it that way. I think it teaches discipline and makes you so you don't make mistakes. It doesn't coddle you.
But do you still need to be treated that way once you're a professional?
Yes, because it keeps you from getting out too big for your head. That's how you end up with situations like Odell Beckham Jr., who is a nut job and clearly not performing as well as a result. I mean, sure, he's got the sports hernia problem going on. That was announced this week, I believe. But either way, that's how you keep players within themselves and keep them humble and make them want to work harder. And not everybody in the NFL is a humble dude. Let's go with that.
So you agree with the kind of culture Matt Patricia is trying to establish?
I agree with the mentality. I hate the execution. I think they're professionals and they need to be treated and they need to act like it and they need to be treated as such. And if you got to push them to do it, then yes, make it happen. But the execution that he's got is obviously terrible. I don't think these guys need to be coddled and a coach isn't your best friend. He doesn't need to be your best friend. And I don't necessarily agree with the way Caldwell ran the team because I don't think they were very disciplined at all. I think they stayed out of trouble more, but they didn't go after the bad character guys. They only stayed in that good character realm. And I think that's where some of the shortcomings came with that team. We watched some of these guys with the bad character go elsewhere and stay out of trouble and be superstars. And then you look back and say, hey, we could have had that dude. So, I mean, I think there's a happy medium in between them. I think you've got two ends of the spectrum here. Neither one of them is going to get the job done.
Yeah.
You got to have that kind of middle ground happy medium until you're a little bit more established like a Mike Tomlin or a Bill Belichick. When you've established yourself, you can then say, all right, we're doing this way and this way only, and if you don't like it, goodbye. But Patricia nor Caldwell had enough behind them to do that. So, I mean, I think you got to have a happy medium between the two. You do.
I think what the part is that's most striking, though, is because, I don't know, again, I've never been a coach. I never played anything at the professional level, obviously. But
really?
But, like, for a new coach, a first-time head coach, like, you would think he would come in with at least, I'm not saying to, like, bow down, but I'm saying, like, I think he would come in with a little bit more of a humble attitude than start coming in like the alpha male and going on and basically having an ego trip.
I mean, okay, let's pump the brakes because this guy's not a rookie coach. He's not a rookie
head coach.
I understand, but he's not a rookie coach, so he's already got some type of rapport behind him in the NFL. He was a defensive coordinator on a Super Bowl winning team. There's already something there. He already had the command of his defense in one locker room. He now wanted to earn the command of his whole team. I get it's not like this dude was coming in off the streets and never had any rapport behind him. He does have a rapport behind him, and there's a reason why he runs his team the way he does, because he knows that it works and worked in the situation he was in previously. That does not necessarily mean it'll work here, though. Yeah. And I'm not saying he needs to come in and bow down to everybody and coddle them or anything like that, but there needs to be a certain level of respect earned. But I have no issue with him coming in and setting his chemistry, his mentality in the locker room and in the coaching offices the way he feels it needs to be. I mean, again, dude is a Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator, and he had a rapport and had a respect of his defense in years past. So now he felt he was going to earn it his way through everybody. Did he probably get a little bit too big-headed and go overboard? Oh, I bet you 100% he did. Yeah. I'm big dog on campus now. I don't live in nobody's shadow anymore. Well, sometimes when you do that, you step over your bounds and you piss some people off, obviously.
Yeah. So I think what strikes me most here is it seems like there may have been a little bit of culture shock going on in the locker room in terms of such a vast
that's what I was saying.
change.
There was an absolute culture shock.
So do you think it's possible? Now, I'm not trying to defend Patricia because I think he's done a terrible job since he's been here, but do you think it's possible that maybe once Patricia gets this, because Patricia came in apparently according to Glover Quinn, preaching that everything needed a rehaul, that they needed a top-down rehaul of the team, which clearly there's not been a top-down rehaul of the team. We moved a few pieces, but...
I mean, they brought in quite a few different names.
Do you think if we were to give Matt Patricia a chance to, or at least more time to establish a culture where the players... I mean, you would think 2 years would be enough to get used to it for players, but if we give him enough time to establish a culture, you think he personally could turn things around as head coach?
No, because for that to happen, you got to have players buying in, and you got to have...
That's what I'm saying.
You got to have the locker room behind you, and he doesn't, obviously. It's the locker room isn't behind him. You got to have people willing to play for you and wanting to play for you on Sunday.
That's what I'm saying. Is the locker room not being behind him, is it more a culture shock, or do they just don't like him?
I just don't think they bought in from the beginning, and I think that continued this year. And I think the effort to push the mentality that the locker room was buying in that we saw earlier in the season was a little bit of a smokescreen in a situation where, no, they're actually not buying in. There's problems here. And I don't think players want to play for him. On top of that, dude can't coach on Sunday either. He makes some really stupid mistakes in coaching decisions that have me sitting here scratching my head going, but why?
First and foremost, the refusal to rush more than 3 guys.
Right. Yeah. And that's been going on for 14 games now, and you go, what the hell are you doing? So, obviously, you don't have the locker room, and you don't know how to coach on Sundays. So, personally, I don't want this dude back. I'm not going to lie to you. And I know I've been probably kind of wishy-washy and going back and forth on it throughout the course of the year when we've talked about this, but I don't want him back. I don't think he's a good coach.
I agree, and I was the biggest Patricia proponent when we were looking for a coach, and when he was one of the candidates. I was all on the Patricia bandwagon, and that's what I wanted, but I'll agree that I don't.
I mean, I had my concerns with him coming in because the New England style of defense that he employed worried me. One, Bill Belichick is a defensive mastermind, so he's hiding behind that. 2, they gave up a lot of yards. Not necessarily a lot of points, but a lot of yards. And I do not like bend, don't break defenses.
The thing I liked about him when he was coming in was the fact that he's been both an OC and a DC, so he knows he's just all around.
I thought he's only been a DC, but he played offensive line and defensive line.
No, he was an OC in college sports.
Okay, well, that's OC in college sports back in the day is different from the NFL today.
What team was he OC for? But anyway, just so in general, I just liked how well-rounded he was as a football mind. That's what I liked about it. So, and that's why that was the main reason I wanted him. But
well, I think the dude straight up lost on offense anyways, and clearly his defense isn't what we want. I don't know. I don't want him back. I'll be honest with you. I really don't. I don't think he's a good coach. I don't think he knows how to coach on Sunday, and I don't think he knows how to coach Monday to Saturday either. I don't think he has the mentality or the rapport behind him or just enough people on his side on from Monday to Saturday to have this locker room buy into what he's preaching, buy into what he's doing. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he just doesn't know how to coach on Sunday. So people are saying, why would we play for this guy? I think there are better coaching candidates out there, and I think that someone else could make this team more successful than him.
Sorry, he wasn't OC. He was
I didn't think so.
Offensive assistant for the Patriots, and then the offensive line coach before he moved over to the defense.
Which makes sense because he played offensive line back in whenever he played. I don't know. But I don't want him back. I don't think he makes good football decisions. I don't think he's a good head coach. And frankly, you could say the same about Bob Quinn. You know, there are some successes there with Bob Quinn. He has had made some good draft picks. He has brought in some players and made an effort. But he's also made some very poor decisions that have come back to bite the Lions in the ass, and it's hurt them. You know, he also hasn't gone and found a guy in the 6th or 7th round that you can say, damn, that's a damn good football player. He just hasn't. And don't give me Jamal Agnew, who's a punt returner. Yeah. Who else has he found in those rounds and is still on the football team, mind you? Quandre Diggs don't count. He ain't on the football team anymore. He got rid of him.
Yep.
So who has Bob Quinn found in those later rounds that's any good? Nobody. And that's how those types of guys are how you end up winning titles. You know, you find guys in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds. You find an undrafted free agent. Look at Philip Lindsay. Guy was an undrafted free agent. Yeah. And he's now one of the top, 12 running backs in the NFL? Look at Chris Carson. Dude's a 7th round draft pick. He's putting up 1,300 yards on the season.
Yep.
Where's a guy like that in our locker room?
We were busy drafting the long snappers in the 5th and 6th round.
Sure. Because those are important. I mean, they are important. But when you got one who's been your mainstay, what the hell is the point of putting...
When we drafted a long snapper in the 5th round, was that under Mayhew or was that under...
No, that was Bob Quinn. That was Quinn. Yeah. What the hell is the point of bringing in a long snapper when you've had the same guy for 40 years at the damn position?
I don't even think
to increase competition in camp at the long snapping position? You want to increase competition in camp? Have a quarterback or a running back there. Yeah. Shit, get a 4th receiver.
I remember there was I can't remember what state receiver was on the board. Was it Benny Fowler? It was someone like that. But
I don't know.
There was a receiver who was a stud for Michigan State still on the board, and I remember me and all my state boys all wanted. We're like, oh my god, we're gonna get him. Long snapper.
Yeah,
it was horrible. But lastly, his comments on Stafford. I actually really like Stafford, but
Stafford was having a fantastic season going up until he got hurt.
And I do think I do think there is something to be taken from what he's saying here in the fact that he wants Stafford to exert more power within the team and within the organization because
Stafford is very laissez-faire with decision making. Unlike a guy like Aaron Rodgers, who you can quite literally connect him to Mike McCarthy's firing. Yeah. There's definitely quarterbacks out there who have exercised their power quite a bit more than Matthew Stafford has. And I do think Stafford has a lot of power in this locker room. I do. Because I think they value him very much, and I think they value his abilities very much, and they don't want to lose him.
It.
I don't necessarily
and hesitant to actually execute it.
I don't. I think it's more of that. I think he realizes it. It's just not in his personality or his MO to stir the pot in the locker room. Or in the front office. I don't think that's his deal. You know, some people are like that, some people aren't, and I think he's one of the ones that just isn't. He's not a guy that likes to stir the pot or try to strong arm an organization. And you know, you can look at that whatever way you want. Personally, I think Stafford's 33 years old. I think he's had 2 broken back or fractured vertebrae injuries or fractured back injuries in the past 2 seasons. I think you need to start looking for a replacement.
Yeah.
And I ain't talking, you know, spending a 3rd round guy on a flyer. No, I'm not talking bringing in, you know, the dude from like Colorado or something. I don't even know if Colorado's got a good quarterback. But I'm talking, we got to get a guy. And I mean a good guy. Someone that I can look at in the 1st or even 2nd round, depending on who's there, and say, hey, that's our QB of the future. Yeah. Stafford's got 1 or 2 more years left in the tank there. But beyond that, yikes. It ain't going to be there.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at that as a definite possibility. Now, where the Lions finish this year, I think right now they're slated to have the 5th pick overall.
I believe
that could definitely change by the end of the year. I think they end up settling in, you know, knowing the Lions, they would win 2 of the next 3 and end up with the 12th pick. But
so here are your scenarios if you're curious about how the Lions can get as low as the 2nd pick in the draft.
Shoot them.
Or as high as 2nd pick, however you want to word it. But no, we would be actually the 6th pick right now.
Right now? Okay. Well, we're tied with the Cardinals, so correct. I think it would flip-flop back and forth. I think the Lions would have the 5th this round.
There, but
I think the Lions have the 5th this in the 1st round because I heard it this week, and then the Cardinals would have the 5th pick in the 2nd round is what I saw. Yeah, okay. I think that's what I saw earlier in this week. I could be wrong.
So, first and foremost, the Lions have to lose out, obviously.
Yeah.
They got Tampa this week, and they got Denver.
You better hope Minnesota beats Green Bay in Week 16.
So
that way Green Bay is forced to play for something in Week 17 and not just going to...
And that Denver game is looking more difficult now because Drew Lock's looking pretty nice.
Okay, he played 1 game. Let's pump the brakes. He's what? 2 games. Sorry, he's played 2 games. Let's pump the brakes. John Elway's gone after that giant quarterback about 7 times. He's bound to hit one of them, and maybe it's this guy. But let's pump the brakes.
Yeah, but here's what
even Brock Osweiler looked okay for a bit.
It kind of hurt you. The Giants couldn't hang on against the Eagles last week. They had the game in their hands. They let it slip. But now the Giants have to win 2 of their next 3 games, which is it was a tall order until you consider the fact they play both Miami and Washington and then the Eagles again. It's possible, but it is still a tall order.
It is a tall order.
And then you need the Redskins to win 1 of the next 3, and you need the Dolphins to win 1 of the next 3.
All of those things are tall orders.
And, Redskins have Philly, the Giants, and Dallas, which that Giants game may be a bit of a conflict of interest for Lions fans. And then Dolphins have the Giants and Cincy still to go before playing New England.
I think most likely scenario is the Lions end up with the 4th or 5th pick, depending on what they do.
How mad would you be the Lions win out?
I'd say it's the most typical damn Lions thing I've ever seen. Stafford comes back and plays. Carry-on comes back and plays. And they're going up against a backup quarterback in Green Bay in Week 17 and end up with the 12th pick.
Yeah.
That would be the most Lions thing I've ever seen.
Now, here's the good news, though. It's debatable that the Giants would draft a QB because they just drafted one last year. High.
That's true.
The Redskins just drafted Dwayne Haskins last year. High, but he hasn't looked very good. If the Cardinals end up finishing ahead of you, they're probably not going to draft a QB. Now, Cincy and Miami...
They're definitely getting quarterbacks.
Are your big threats to draft a
Cincy,
quarterback.
there's no question Cincy's going to be taking Joe Burrow number 1 overall. There's no question about that. You're not getting Joe Burrow. Look beyond him.
Which is why I find it more important that we find a way to pass the Dolphins than the Giants. I don't think the Giants are too much of a threat.
I highly doubt you're passing the Dolphins. You're just an all-around better football team than the Dolphins.
They would just need to win against either the Giants or against the Bengals. That's it.
If you lose out.
If we lose out. Assuming we lose. Assuming we're smart enough.
Well, no, because that would give them 3 wins, and you would have 1 less loss.
No, the Dolphins already have 3 wins.
Oh, they do. That's right.
Yep.
So then let's preface this conversation before we get any further. Are you a proponent of the Lions tanking?
Yes, absolutely.
The season? Okay, so
why not? What's the point of winning these next 3 games?
There isn't one.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'm so I know it's hard for Lions fans to actively root against their team on Sunday.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not. It's one of the easiest damn things to do in the world.
Go to Ford Field and look.
Whatever.
But
it's so easy to root against this team. Just I don't like to do it.
But I just implore you guys to have this team's future interest at heart. To root with your head and not with your heart. And root for them to lose on Sundays. Your brain.
Okay.
Get your mind out the gutter.
No, obviously I want this team to lose out. Obviously I want this team to have a top 5 pick or even a top 3 pick if possible. I'm so jaded by the way this team drafts. I feel like they'd screw it up anyways.
All right, over under. I'm going to put the over under at 40% of a top 3 pick. And the number 3 pick.
I would say under.
Under 40%.
Yeah, you're at 5 or 6 right now.
What's the hold up? Us losing out or the Redskins or Dolphins?
The other team's doing poorly
winning
enough.
A game.
The other
game.
The other team.
1 game.
Doesn't matter. You also got to understand Arizona's there. They're probably looking to do the same thing. You also got to understand the Giants are there. Washington's there. Miami's there. You're looking at quite a
I'm not worried about Arizona. Again, Arizona's not going to draft the quarterback. I'm talking about if you're looking to draft the quarterback.
I understand, but
I'm worried about the Dolphins.
Are you really
maybe
telling me that a guy like Justin Herbert's going to change this organization? Because frankly, I don't believe he's the guy.
It's a start. I don't know.
What, you're going to end up with a guy like Mitch Trubisky? Is that what you want?
I don't want Mitch Trubisky. Is that what you think Justin Herbert's going to pan out to be?
No, I'm just saying that I think that the quarterbacks in this draft have potential to be good. I think there's one truly, I believe, that is very good, and it's Joe Burrow, and you're not getting him.
Yeah. The other guy I would really like is Chase Young.
Yeah, but again, you're not getting the 2nd overall pick.
Yeah, that you'd need the 2nd overall pick to get Chase Young. Assuming Joe Burrow goes 1.
So, and the question is, there's been a lot of speculation whether or not the Lions actually are tanking. And I do have an interesting stat that was put out there. This is courtesy of Logan Lamorandier. I don't remember how to pronounce his name.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let me try to pronounce it. Logan Lamorandier. That's how I'm going to go.
All right, that was very French. How French of you. But in the last game, the Lions defensive tackle John Atkins outsnapped both Ashawn Robinson and Snacks Harrison.
We've been putting players in the IR left and right.
Yeah.
Most recently, Marvin Jones.
Rookie cornerback Amani Aruorie played more than Justin Coleman, and Rashawn Melvin didn't play a single snap. Tight end Logan Thomas outsnapped Jesse James.
Interesting.
And defensive end Trey Flowers played only 51% of snaps in that game.
Interesting.
So that kind of lends you to believe that, hey, we're trying to see what we got of the fringe guys for next season.
Could we finally be openly tanking?
I don't know. But that sure looks like a, hey, let's see what we got here for next year. Because that was a lot of young names on that list.
They just upgraded Travis Fulgham from the practice squad.
Yes. But that was a lot of young names with Aruarie, with Logan Thomas, in that realm. That's young names that aren't sure things.
Yeah.
Let me throw out a possibility here for you, and I want your thoughts. Lions end up with the 5th pick, which I think technically, mathematically, is their most likely draft position at this time. End up with the 5th pick overall in the draft. Team in the early 20s comes a-calling. Or mid-20s, comes a calling. Says, hey, we want to move up. Do you want to move back to the mid-20s? We'll give you other picks, maybe our 2nd rounder, maybe another 4th rounder. Maybe you probably have to sweeten the pot even more than that. But, we'll give you our 1st, 2nd, 4th, whatever. You move back, and a guy by the name of Tua Tagovailoa is available in the early to mid-20s. Do you take a shot at him? Do you comfortably move back to bypass guys like Justin Herbert?
Can you repeat the haul you're getting to move back?
Well, I don't know what the haul is.
But I thought you just said it.
No, I'm just throwing out a hypothetical that I don't know what the value is of that 5th pick. It all depends on who's on the board there. I'm saying if a team comes a-calling and you want a quarterback in the 1st round, are you willing to move back into the 20s to get extra picks to go after Tua as opposed to grabbing a guy like Justin Herbert early in the 1st?
Yes, because you had the luxury of time. So you can wait for him to rehab. You can wait for him to learn, and because you still have Stafford there, and he could be in. It could be like a Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers kind of situation. Not trying to say Stafford.
Yeah, except for the fact that Tua Tagovailoa is not going to be on a football field for a year. That's not the same scenario.
You had the luxury of time, as I just said.
Right, but that's not the same scenario.
I know, but how long was Aaron Rodgers on that team before he finally got the start?
1.5 years.
It was longer than that.
No, it was not a long time. It was not that long of a time. It just felt like a long time. It was either 1 year or 2 years.
It did feel like a long time.
It was either 1 or 2 years.
I thought it was like 3 years.
No, not that I recall, anyways.
But yeah, either way, you had the luxury of time for him to take his time rehabbing and get used to the playbook, get used to the speed of the NFL before actually taking meaningful snaps. You're not throwing him to the fire immediately.
Even though that injury is potentially career-ending.
Yes, I think he's young enough where he can come back from it.
It's a hip, man.
Yeah.
Those don't just heal. That's what worries me. And also, it's not like dude hasn't.
So you wouldn't do it?
I'd be very cautious. I would. He is a guy that I like the talent. I like what's there. I like the ability. I like the head on his shoulders. But the hip injury scares the hell out of me. And also, he's got a lot of other injuries under his belt. He's got knee injuries.
What about
if
he legitimately dropped to the top of the 2nd round and you didn't draft the quarterback?
There's no way he's dropping in the top 2nd round.
I'm just saying, theoretically.
He's not. Well, theoretically, that's not possible.
You don't think that teams would be scared away by the injury? You're just talking about how
he's
it could
a first-round talent.
He's
a first-round talent. He's going to get taken in the 1st round by somebody. I can guarantee you that. I'd be unless it comes out tomorrow that hey, this hip is not healing. He's screwed. He's getting drafted in the 1st round by somebody. Maybe the Pats do it. Who knows? But he's getting drafted in the 1st round.
The Pats would be wise to do it.
I think they would
really
too.
Have the luxury of time
I think the Pats.
I
think the Pats would be wise. I think the Steelers would be wise. I think a lot of teams could be wise to do it. But either way,
we're not in a Dolphin situation where we need a quarterback right now. We just need to start preparing for Stafford to hand the reins off to somebody.
I don't necessarily disagree that we need a quarterback right now, but I think time is ticking.
Yeah, I know exactly. That's what I'm saying. We need to start preparing now. We don't need a we don't need a quarterback to come in and start right now.
Now, are you willing to spend a 1st round pick on a quarterback in this draft?
Depends who's on the board, but yeah.
I'll tell you right now, that is my number 1 want in the 1st round of this draft. Unless we draft number 2 and Chase Young staring us straight in the face. That's it.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I'll tell you right now, if we draft Jerry Jeudy 5th overall, I may smash my TV.
Question. Jonathan Taylor's on the board at number 3. You're number 3. Jonathan Taylor's obviously on the board.
Is that the Wisconsin running back? No.
What about J.K. Dobbins?
That high in the draft? I don't think he's going that high, is he?
I don't know. I haven't looked at a mock draft. I couldn't tell you.
I haven't looked.
I'm just trying to line up team needs.
It's a little early for me to be looking at mock drafts.
Yeah, that's why. But just in general,
No, I don't want a first-round running back. I'll be honest with you, I don't.
What if you did that trade and you're in the back of the first round and you're looking at Tua or one of those running backs?
I don't want a first-round running back.
Okay.
I don't believe in first-round running backs. I think running backs are very important, but I think you can get just as good of one in the second round as you can in the first.
You can.
I think running backs are very important.
So you don't think J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Taylor are world-beating talents, basically, is what you're saying?
I mean, I think they're very good talents, and I'm not going to pass.
I think for a first-round running back, it has to be a surefire
I will not
pick,
pass up
like a Zeke or a Saquon.
Even then, I will not pass up an elite pass rusher or an elite quarterback to draft a running back in the first round.
Yeah.
If any of those other two things, or an elite linebacker or anything like that, if any of those other positions are available to me, which at the top of the first round,
that's what I said. If you did that trade where you trade back to the back of the first round,
if I do that trade, it's to go get Tua.
Okay.
It's not to get anything else.
Okay.
Because I would rather. Because again, my number one want is a quarterback. You're not giving up that fifth pick to go get J.K. Dobbins late in the first round, unless the only time I'd be willing for us to trade back like that and pass up on guys like Justin Herbert is because we're getting Tua later in that first round. That's it. I would be pretty disappointed to see them not draft a quarterback in the first round making that trade.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty disappointed to see them not draft a quarterback in the first round unless it's for a guy like Chase Young or an elite talent at a linebacker pass rushing position or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I mean, you can even argue like an Andrew Thomas would make me kind of happy. The offense tackle from Georgia, dude's a mauler. This mock draft has Tua at 4 overall. What the hell?
Interesting.
To Miami. It has us, this is SI.com. It has us taking Jeffrey Okudah, the cornerback from Ohio State. Give you an idea of where the first running back is slated to go. It is, well, it says,
well, it looks like it's far back because you said is for a while.
It has Justin Herbert going 15 overall.
Wow, interesting.
That's pretty late. I highly doubt that happens, to be honest with you.
Well, yeah. Judging from the time it's taken.
First running back off the board is 22. It is DeAndre Swift, running back from Georgia.
Interesting.
Outside of that...
What mock are you looking at?
SI.com.
Okay, that's interesting because I'm looking at Walter Football. They also have him going number 22.
DeAndre Swift?
Yep.
There are no other running backs in the first round.
It's also the first... Oh, are they probably not going to the draft this year then, are they? I don't even know what class they're in. If they're sophomores or juniors...
Maybe they just haven't declared yet or something. I haven't heard much about them.
Anyway,
I can look at USA Today to be sure, but either way, I'm not a big fan of first round running backs.
Yeah.
I'm just not. I think you can get a good. Oh, here's an interesting one. Lions at 5 take Derek Brown, defensive lineman from Auburn.
Jonathan Taylor's eligible. He's a junior.
Yeah. The Miami Dolphins also on this one from DraftWire, which is USA Today.
J.K. Dobbins also junior.
Tua Tagovailoa at number 4 overall to the Dolphins.
Wow.
So it's starting to look like you need to get ahead of the Dolphins.
This trading back thing probably ain't going to happen.
You could potentially trade back to get Justin Herbert because this has the Chargers taking him at 10, so maybe move back a few spots to get there.
The Dolphins could be an interesting team to trade with, though, because of the fact they have two picks in the 20s, 22 and 23 back-to-back.
It just depends on what's there.
I didn't realize there were 3 first-round picks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it just depends on what's there. That's all. I mean, if you like the talent that's there, yeah, sure.
I think the Lions are put themselves in that situation.
What?
Why can't the Lions are put themselves in that situation?
Because the Lions aren't willing to bottom out.
Yeah.
Lions aren't willing to give up assets to bring in
Agreed.
pieces.
Yeah.
I mean, other teams are obviously willing to do that. The Raiders did it. The Dolphins did it. Who else now? You know? I'm curious to see who else is willing to do something like that. I thought the Bengals were going to do it with A.J. Green. That didn't happen.
Yep.
But who knows what that situation is going to be. They're going to get their quarterback anyways. So,
all right, final question. Who bottoms out first? Lions or Pistons?
Yikes.
If any.
I mean, you can argue that the Lions tanking is them bottoming out this year. So,
but they're not giving up assets for draft picks. So,
right, they won't ever trade. But the only thing I'll be honest with you, I don't think a lot of their assets have a ton of value in terms of high trade value outside of maybe Matthew Stafford, and they're not trading him.
Yeah.
I don't think Kenny Galladay is going to get you a first round pick right now. He might get you a second. I don't think Kerryon Johnson's going to get you a first or a second.
I think you could have gotten more than a 5th for Quandre Diggs, though.
I think they straight up handed him away for a bag of sand. I've said that I think it is the worst move Bob Quinn has ever made.
Imagine your Quandre Diggs like, damn, it's all I'm worth is a 5th-round pick.
I'd be pretty bitter.
Jesus.
I know I'd be better if I was him. It's pretty disappointing, obviously. Do I want this team to tank out and get us a new quarterback or get us something in that first round? Absolutely, because we need talent on this roster because we obviously don't have a lot of it.
Yeah.
And while I do want a lot of defensive talent taken in this draft, I don't necessarily think we need to reach for defensive talent in the first round if we're in that top 5 situation. I think we need to go best player available because there isn't a position on this roster outside of maybe wide receiver that we don't need a high-end talent at. Mm-hmm. To be completely honest with you. Running back also. I don't think we need to reach and grab a running back at number 5 overall. I think that would be a waste of a draft pick. But outside of that, I'm good with taking just about anything else.
Yeah.
Short of a punter and a kicker and a kick returner.
Mm-hmm. All right.
But number 1 want, quarterback.
Yeah.
For me, at least.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Time is a ticking.
It is. It's also a tick on this podcast as we close this one out for today.
Well, it wasn't that just a cute way to end the show.
It was, wasn't it?
Whatever.
But thank you guys for listening again. Again, you can follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report. Catch our live show every Monday and Thursday at 8 o'clock on Twitch. www.twitch.tv/thefanreport.
Twitch.tv/thefanreport.
Yes, twitch.tv/thefanreport.
So thank you guys again for listening. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters by fans.
For fans.
See you guys next week. Have a good one. Peace out.
Peace.